for joining Having with Recapped. I have Kenna here from Intercom joining us talking about his 2023 and what we're excited about for 2024. Tim, thanks for being here. Why don't you give a quick intro, who you are, what you do, why it's exciting? I'm sure everyone's heard of Intercom, but you never know.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Mark. Here at Intercom, been in SaaS sales for about 8 years now. I started at a company called Meltwater, big, great sales culture. We call it like a sales diploma, PhD in sales. Bounced around a couple times. Came to Intercom after having experiences with Intercom as an Intercom customer. So Intercom is a customer communication platform, AI first, chat focused, omni-channel as well, supporting over 25,000 businesses in their pursuit of good customer relations and creating a better digital experience online. So challenging but fun year here at Intercom, I guess, is how I would start describing 2023.
Yeah, obviously I'm a big fan. I think we talked about this last time. I've been a customer now at like 3 or 4 different companies. Love what you guys do. Obviously you guys have different team structures. What's the core ICP and go to market for Intercom? And maybe what's yours, because I know you're segmented a little bit from the rest of the team as well.
Yeah, for sure. So companies like Recapped, great high growth companies, tech forward, digital first, or at least those that are ready to adopt kind of like a future facing automation, AI style communication framework with their customers at scale makes to be a great Intercom customer. I mean, we have like large companies, I'm talking Fortune 100, like even in obscure categories like food delivery that you wouldn't expect to be as digital, all the way to, again, companies like Recap, like high growth, high energy, kind of aligned with that Intercom persona of the digital communication. So I would say it runs the gamut. Our focus as a company is certainly the companies that are trying to deploy AI and automation in this framework, in this new world, I guess you could say, because this is something we've been doing for a number of years now. So it runs the gamut across, up and down industry segments. We do well, and particularly well in some of the more digital focused industries. And then for me, myself, I'm selling to what we call our key segment. Another great segment that we have here, it would be the largest customers using Intercom and working on just new business currently.
I love that. And I think, obviously over the time you guys have built out different products and different product suites, and kind of, keeping all of that cohesive is definitely a challenge. But obviously 2023, I think, was a difficult year for a lot of people, a lot of ups and downs. For you personally, maybe for the team, what really worked well in 2023?
Yeah, so I think it is important to start a few years back, and I'm sure you've heard these stories too. Like you think about 2021, once we got ourselves figured out post initial pandemic shock, 2020, 2021, the gravy train. Salespeople were reaping rewards of this retreat digitally, and I think processes really slipped. You talk about mutual action plans, close plans, business cases, ROI, multi-threading, like all of the things we should be doing. Because sales got a little easier, I know personally, and many of my colleagues at Intercom and elsewhere tended to get away from that. Sales became more transactional. 2022 hits, the reckoning of people going back outside and layoffs across different industries. And I think what we learned is retightening up the sales processes and going back to basics. So in many cases, this posed a challenge for companies. Of course, nobody wants to see layoffs. Posed a challenge for sales organizations as well. Ourselves, we were no different. However, the opportunity that we found was like, hey, let's figure out how to sell again, right? Let's figure out how to keep processes tight, how to forecast correctly, how to not just play it as fast and loose as we did over those like COVID boom years. So I think there's a blessing and a curse in there that, of course, things slowed down a bit. but in slowing down, it allowed us to take a laser focus on processes, which is what we did here at Intercom. And we got in our first little plug here. If you know Vendor, I think you know Vendor, Mark,
Yep.
right?
We have a
Yeah,
partnership with them. Great
yeah,
team, Ryan and everybody else over there.
yeah. So we hit Vendor for like the most bought software for the first time ever, I believe, in the top 10. We were at number 9 for November or Q3 or whatever it was. So I think it's a testament to like how, as a sales team, we've like really negotiated this challenging era and gone back to the basics for things like becoming less transactional and more strategic.
Hell yeah. Congrats. I mean, everything you said has been echoed by a lot of the revenue leaders I'm talking to. It's 2023 and 2024 is all about mastering the fundamentals, blocking
Mm-hmm.
and tackling, making sure that that's right, qualifying deals, deal execution, enabling your buyers, having visibility into those deals so you can actually forecast and compare
Yeah,
apples to apples instead of apples to bowling balls, right? It's
yeah.
what a fantastic, obviously fantastic progress and despite adversity. What are some of the things that didn't work? What were some of the painful lessons of this past year?
Intercom has built a very impressive inbound engine, and I mean, I'd say that the closest that I haven't seen anything close in my sales career of 8 years so far, aside from like HubSpot, right, who basically created this inbound marketing setup. But when those start to slow down, of course, you're looking at pipeline gen and outbound. And I think we as a sales org, in having to relearn outbound, because the for everybody inbound engines slow, the hand raisers are farther and farther between. Although I'm thankful we still have a very solid inbound engine, and there's still demand. You do have to fill in the gaps with outbound. And outbounding, especially for those of us who kind of, to a certain extent, and I'm not proud of this, did shut it off because we didn't need to, from basically like June 2020 until what, like November of 2022.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
different now. It's not the same. You have work from home, you have people not picking up the phone, the rise of spam and emails as well. So I'd say we slipped off the blocks a few times in determining what works from an outbound capacity. Do you hyper personalize? Do you throw spaghetti and see what sticks, right? Like there'll be some changes with the new Gmail or email situation for in the new year for like sending out, spamming emails and getting spam filters and blocks. But that's been the biggest challenge for us is like, how do we relearn that outbound motion? We've tested, tried, failed, succeeded in some, and we're still learning.
What do you think the best reps did differently?
In the context of outbound or overall?
I think overall, but
Yeah,
especially in outbound too. I imagine that's top of funnel or that's top of mind for everybody.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think grit is still underestimated in our world. And I know it's not the most scientific or strategic answer, but in a world where we could you could do most of these jobs from your couch while watching The Office or doing your laundry or whatever it might be. I do think like the best reps, particularly when it comes to outbound and in general, put their nose to the grindstone, not just to like repeat the daily tasks and run processes, but to learn as well, like learning what's working and what's not working. So I think from that capacity, the reps that did the best were just working hard, still trying to learn in the face of a ton of distraction, right? Like again, thinking about 2023 and before, like things happening in the world, a lot happening in life, work from home offering a lot of distractions. To navigate those, keep processes tight, outbound, and stay true to learning were some of the ways that I saw my peers excelling.
I mean, I think it just rings back to what you said earlier about mastering the fundamentals, right? Going back to basics. Again, blocking and tackling. Thank you for that. What are you most excited about in 2024? And what are you going to do differently next year?
If you think of 2020 to 2022, it's just 2021 boom, 2022 bust, 2023 is like the reset. And my hope and expectation in 2024 is that many of us have just come out of this as better sellers. And not only will that benefit us, but also benefit our buyers too, right? Like creating a positive buying experience, I think, is where we can take this to the next level. I think it's super important, you know, buyers of software are under as much stress, if not more, than sellers are. So we want to get better at what we do, not just to earn earn a living, but to improve the experience for people that are tasked with running these sorts of evaluations. But we sell to customer support professionals, and think about the stress that they're under, especially with work from home and distributed teams and all of that stuff. So for us to get better in 2023, my hope and expectation is we'll deploy the skills fully in 2024 that will help us as sellers, but help our buyers even more.
1000% agreed. Obviously, anyone that follows me knows that I talk a lot about reducing friction. I genuinely believe that no matter how hard sales is, buying software is at least 2 times harder, especially if you're in a new organization, you've never done it, especially with budget cuts and all of the issues that we have right now with CFOs and CIOs and all the internal approvals. Getting that across the finish line and selling internally, I think, has never been harder. Or at least not in the last 2 decades. What are some of the tactical ways that you're going to actually put that into motion? How are you thinking about enabling your buyers? Are you going to be creating mutual action plans? What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, mutual action plans will be a big part of that. And I think the business cases as well. I think what I'm changing and developing is it's easy for us to make mutual action plans, easy for us to create business cases and generate an ROI, show the cost of doing nothing, but it's not always perfect. And the reason why is in many cases, these aren't truly mutual. It's like, yeah, I have some time over the weekend. I'm going to put this together. I think they'll like it. I think I'm hearing what they're saying and I'm going to send it over. And I hope this helps. And I'll put it in Word format. So if I messed anything up and they do want to share this with an exec, they can change it themselves, right? I think that is the first step, but there's multiple steps to go in making it truly mutual and forming a buying and selling partnership as far as navigating internal processes on both sides. Like give gets are part of that mutuality. Like action plans where we both have input are part of that mutuality. Generating a business case, not just one side, me or you, but together is part of that. So I need, as a seller, to get better at the collaboration nature of it to really push these, help both of us push internal processes through.
I think that obviously that's a really big piece too. And then also it has to be easy, right? It has to integrate with systems. It has to track the buyer engagement, right? Because I saw this myself when we were creating mutual action plans, 7-10 years ago when I was on teams. We spent 2 hours over the weekend creating it. And then it's out there. Is anyone looking at it? Is anyone using it? Are we going to end up actually passing it off to post-sales and customer success? It's like, who knows, right? So I love what you said, right? Being able to kind of standardize that and make it consistent definitely becomes key. How can people help you and how can you help others going into the new year?
Yeah, I'll answer that, Mark. I do want to add one point on the last point there. Ages ago, I was really into politics, not anymore. But there's a book called Hardball by Chris Matthews, the political commentator. And one of the biggest determining factors of if someone will vote for you as a candidate is if they do something for you, if they volunteer their time. So like if somebody goes and knocks on doors for Mark for president, that person, there's like almost no chance that that person will not also vote for Mark as well because they've impacted the campaign in even just a little way. So in short, I will be in 2024 trying to get that early buy-in. Is someone going to look at this action plan? I don't know. But are they going to share it along? I don't know. But if they contribute substantially, there's a much higher chance of them engaging with that type of content and flying that flag than if it's just one-sided you showing them something.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. The other question, it was, how can, as buyers and sellers,
Well,
we help each other? Or what do you think?
so let's actually come back to that. I love what you said about the politics portion. I feel like we can have a deeper dive onto that just as its own 30-minute episode. But I think that's a really, really great analogy for sales, right? Because so many times, so many deals are dying because we have this champion, but really they're not a champion, right? Because like you said, a champion is willing to put their name on the line. They're willing to go and champion this product internally, which means knocking on doors, which means,
Yeah.
you know, getting people to sign a waiver or whatever the equivalent of that is in the organization. I think one of the biggest things that I usually hear is these like myths from, I guess, more junior reps is when we talk about mutual action plans and why you should absolutely collaboratively and mutually create them with your buyer. They push back and they're like, well, what if my buyer doesn't create next steps with me? What if they push back on this? And it's like, good. I mean, that means you don't have a deal. That means you
Then
don't
sound
have
the
a real
alarm.
opportunity. Get it the hell
Yeah.
out of your pipeline and go focus on things that are actually going to move the needle.
Yeah.
And so I love that, kind of that reminded me of that thought is just don't be afraid to push and collaborate together, because if there is a big enough pain and you've done a great enough job enabling them and building that business case, then it should be collaborative. Sales should be collaborative. Right? That's why I started Recapped. I believe that the way you sell should be, the buyer should be just as excited to purchase what you're selling as you are to sell it to them.
Yeah. 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 I'm with you on that. I think I've certainly fallen into that trap. It's like, well, I don't want to ask too much of them. I don't want to ask for this or that. Like, if you have a buyer that's not meeting you halfway, it's not because they don't like you or because they're mean or lazy. It's because something has changed, right?
Yeah.
And they might not be coming to the table just simply because they're going somewhere else. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. We call it pressure testing, right? So long as people are still engaged, you still have a deal.
Yeah. Very well said. Going back to the last question,
Yeah.
how can people help you and how can you help others? For anyone watching this, if there's something you're struggling with or you want to get better at in 2024, if they can ping you, and if there's anything you can offer
Yeah.
with Intercom, without Intercom, just in general. I think the sales community is so small, and I think so much of it is just about giving, right, versus trying to get. We believe that if you contribute just as much, it is possible into the community, good things will come back to you, and if they don't, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Good question, Mark. There's an organization called Rework. They are awesome. They essentially take folks who are interested in a position in technology sales, and over the course of several weeks, train them at no charge to obtain, be ready for, and ultimately, hopefully, obtain a BDR role, an SDR role, whatever you want to call it, at typically a SaaS company. They've placed at Intercom, they place a lot at Sprout Social. I think DocuSign is involved as well. They do great work. It's nonprofit, not for profit. And I would encourage everyone, it's called Rework. Again, Rework Training, to check them out. I volunteer with them fairly regularly. If you're able to volunteer some time, some of your knowledge to the sales community, to give back, donations, whatever it might be. They take folks from different backgrounds. Some might be in retail, a custodian, anyone that is ready to get into this role and has the grit for it. They do great stuff and bring a lot of diverse backgrounds into our pretty, like you said, close knit, which is good, but almost too tightly wound sales community. So check them out. That's what I can offer, the opportunity to give back to them, or maybe what I'm asking for too. I think these go hand in hand. And then, of course, check out Intercom as well for small to large businesses, anyone that's looking to support customers more deeply and even drive pipeline. While we're a pretty laser focused customer support platform, the lines between sales, marketing, and support are getting smaller each day. So how can we leverage chat automation to bring more leads in the pipeline, upsell in a SaaS environment, or of course support customers? That's what we do. So hope that is good for those two asks.
That is, it is. And I appreciate that. And thanks for giving a shout out to a nonprofit that looks like they're doing something really interesting. It's reworktraining.org. Feel free to go check it out. Go check out Intercom. Message Tim if you guys need anything. Tim, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. And hope you have a great 2024.
You too. Thanks for the time, Mark.